their money where their mouth is.
All of those meetings blur into one, but Meeting for Good is memorable.
It absolutely makes sense to do this, and I definitely recommend peers to engage with Magic.
The Meet Magic meetings compared to the other meetings that we have, I have thousands of meetings literally.
And at the end of a 45-minute meeting, I've helped sick kids at the Starlights Children's Hospital, which is my chosen charity.
When you're first meeting someone, you're trying to build a connection, and with Meetings for Good, you just find the connections automatically there.
And when I actually think about what Meet Magic does and the opportunity to spend some time supporting the community of our vendors, but also being able to give back.
And when the opportunity presented itself to join Meet Magic, I jumped at it.
But these ones are different, and the reason they're different is because the vendor wants to meet with you and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is.
All of those meetings blur into one, but Meeting for Good is memorable.
It absolutely makes sense to do this, and I definitely recommend peers to engage with Magic.
Meet Magic meetings compared to the other meetings that we have, I have thousands of meetings literally.
And at the end of a 45-minute meeting, I've helped sick kids at the Starlights Children's Hospital, which is my chosen charity.
When you're first meeting someone, you're trying to build a connection, and with Meetings for Good, you just find the connections automatically there.
And when I actually think about what Meet Magic does and the opportunity to spend some time supporting the community of our vendors, but also being able to give back.
And when the opportunity presented itself to join Meet Magic, I jumped at it.
But these ones are different, and the reason they're different is because the vendor wants to meet with you and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is.
All of those meetings blur into one, but Meeting for Good is memorable.
It absolutely makes sense to do this, and I definitely recommend peers to engage with Magic.
There are lots and lots of reasons why we can increase our degree of what you might call random bee activity as businesses made possible by these new technologies. But there is a limit, and this is why I think Meet Magic is absolutely, well, quite literally, magic. And the reason is that by effectively requesting a charitable donation for the meeting, you filter your search to those people who are most likely to be actually relevant and worth meeting, and whose presence is, shall we say, worth exploring, for the simple reason that they've made a costly signal that they believe they can be of value to you. Now, as I said, you could cheekily do that through bribery, but that's generally frowned on. What this is beautiful is that it has the focus, if you like, that the person is making a payment to see you, and therefore you can reasonably expect they have something worthwhile to say, otherwise they'd be giving that money to somebody else. But on the other hand, you don't get all the problems that happen if the money goes to you. What happens is the money which often would have been spent on hosting a trade show stand or taking someone on a golf weekend or doing those other rather kind of extravagant things that businesses do to demonstrate their commitment to each other. Instead, the commitment, rather than going to a golf club or rather than going to a kind of, sports event in the form of hospitality, rather than going to an exhibition hall, it actually goes to a really worthwhile charity. I think this is an interesting idea because I think economists will love it because it uses effectively costly signalling and commitment to filter your attention. If only email cost £10 to send, every email you received will be really, really relevant. So it does that wonderful, wonderful thing, but more important than the fact that economists will find it beautiful, I think both the meeting setters and the meeting takers will, as ordinary human beings, find the whole thing both gloriously efficient and unbelievably elegant. I'm really, really proud to support this business. I think it's magnificent.
And that was Rory Sutherland. And for those who don't know who Rory Sutherland is, he's my chief evangelist. I'm still shocked at how we've managed to get him on board as both a shareholder and chief evangelist. He talks very highly of what we're doing as a business, trying to help the world, make the world a better place. And it's quite remarkable, the connections that he's giving to us. Very, very interesting. But his perspective on what Meet Magic is, as you just heard, is is just beautiful. It's eloquent and it's beautiful. And I think that's pretty much where we're going. For those that don't know me, I'm Carl. I'm the founder of a purpose-led platform which gives executives and decision makers an opportunity to give back just by doing what they do every single day, which is meetings. And the whole purpose of having Rory behind us is to help reframe that journey, because reframing what a meeting is today is something very special. If you haven't read his book, Alchemy, go get it. Life-changing stuff. I was talking to Ben Taylor, the ATO Assistant Commissioner, who's got that book, read it, and he's completely in awe of Rory. So he's really interested that obviously we're working together and doing some great stuff together. So anyway, this podcast really is all about execs and helping to sort of showcase their journey. But this particular one is a bit different. We've actually got a few people coming on this one. There's Craig Napier, who's the Chief Digital Officer of the University of Technology. We've got an apology from Alessandro, and I know you're there watching in the background, mate. Alessandro's is an apology because he's got a sick, small human being at home, but he sent us a great question to ask. And just waiting to join the call is Usman Morton. Usman and Morton from an AI literacy consultancy firm called Zenalot AI. And then I think we were expecting Ross Ashman, who's the founder of the Public Sector Network, to come and join us. And this really is all about AI transformation. You know, how do we make sure that we're doing the right things, basically? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Craig to the call, because Craig's the only one who's actually joined it so far. So, Craig, where the hell are the rest of them?
I can't answer that one. Not too sure, Carl, but really happy to be here.
Mate, it's nice to see you. And can I just say thanks for being a great supporter of the whole Meet Magic movement as well. You've been tremendous over the years. And what's it been like for you? Just let me just start there. What as an exec, you're the Chief Digital Officer of a university. What's it been like having the meetings? Now, this is completely random. We haven't rehearsed this, so I'm scared of what I'm going to get back.
No, don't be scared. You know, I think, as you said, I've been sort of involved for, I think, nearly 2 years now. And I think one of the things that I find quite valuable is just that there is obviously an opportunity for me to select where there's sort of definite areas of interest for myself. But also really to engage with some of the tech leaders that are exploring some of these emerging technologies that are really so relevant for us in this space. But I think equally important is just the value that it's providing to, I think, my chosen charity, the Starlight Children's Foundation, and really sort of making a difference there as well. So I think it's beneficial both for me, but I think also being able to contribute to charities that are really quite worthy.
Yeah, I mean, I was in London last week or so. I've lost count. I've got jet lag. Week or so, 2 weeks ago, and we were talking with the Ogilvy guys. So Rory obviously works. He's the vice chairman of Ogilvy, and we were sat there talking with him about just some of the things that we talk about with the positioning of this and how executives feel when they have these connections. Because the head of the B2B practice, the business to business practice at Ogilvy, James, was telling us that he gets targeted so much by sales people, sales calls, people reaching out on LinkedIn. There's emails, there's, you name it, every channel is flooded with people asking for his time. One of the things that he said was, we obviously know that there's some connections in there that are really important that we want to take, but there's just so many of them. There's no filter. And so what Meet Magic does really is act as a filter for them to go through and select which ones they want to do, which is, to your point, which is great. But he also said that if they'd approach this in a way that said, hey, Craig, we've just met with 10 other chief digital officers of universities. We'd love to come and share with you what we shared with them. Would that actually make a difference to you saying yes or no to them, to meeting with them, if you know that they've actually met with 10 of your peers?
Look, I think it may. I guess it's really what's most important is the topics of interest. I think within the sector, we are highly collaborative, and there is sort of a really strong sense of what's happening across other institutions. but I think also, just being in higher education, we can also benefit and value from what's happening across other organizations, other industries. So it's sort of the broad scope of possibilities, because we're not doing anything new with the technology, we're just doing things in different ways. And so how can we leverage that better? So I think coming back to what you're referring to there is, just that ability to filter a lot of the noise out. Meet Magic do that really well, and happy to be a part of it and continue to be a part of it.
Thank you, and it's great to have you on board. And I just wanted to introduce Roth and Usman. Welcome to the stage.
The virtual stage. Nice to be here.
Likewise. Thanks, Carl.
No, my pleasure, and thanks for joining. I know it's kind of a little bit complicated, but it's I think this whole AI transformation piece is maybe you want to start off with introducing yourself, because I think this stage here, there's enough knowledge on this stage to really make some pretty informed decisions. Obviously, Craig's already introduced himself, Chief Digital Officer of UTS, one of the most prominent universities here. Ross, you and I met literally a few months back, but I think we've known each other for 50 years, what it feels like.
Felt that way. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Carl, but you're right. Yes. So my background, for what it's worth, co-founder, CEO of Public Sector Network. Public Sector Network is exactly as it sounds. It's a network of public servants. We operate across 5 countries, headquartered in Sydney, Australia, but operate in New Zealand, Canada, the US, and the UK. The premise is really, really simple. How do we help government executives to better network, benchmark, and establish best practice on a global scale? And who would have thought AI at the moment is a real big topic that everyone's struggling with everywhere. So hopefully that's some of the perspective I'll bring. I should probably just caveat by saying you probably got the wrong co-founder for this one, Carl. My business partner is the computer scientist and the government relations expert. You've brought the dumb salesman onto the call, but hopefully I can make it sound good at least.
And you're a West Ham fan. We've gone. What have we done?
This will be the first and last time I'm invited on.
No, actually, I think that for me, I'm the dumbest one in this room, because I think I need to surround myself with people constantly that are smarter than me. And what you've done creating a business and an industry is phenomenal. And I've got to take my hat off and pay a massive amount of respect for that, because it is. You're a global company doing amazing things, and you're connected in the right places, having the right conversations. And they're simple conversations. So I don't think it needs to be too much rocket science that we're doing here. But the reason I pulled everyone together was because I had actually had a chat with Usman, and I was put in touch with Usman from Alessandro, who can't make it today because he's got a sick human child at home. So bless him with that. But Usman was talking to me about some of the things around AI and literacy, and it just popped into my head. We've got all these things happening. There's a lot of complications out there, especially in the government world, I think, where they want to play with AI but don't know how to get started or don't have budget and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, bring everything together and have a conversation about it. But Usman, welcome to the stage. Maybe you want to introduce yourself, because your background is phenomenal. And when Alessandro introduced me to you, I felt a little bit intimidated having a chat, because I thought, oh God, this is going to be really. I'm a dumb boy from Nottingham. I never went to university, and I felt like I was not just the stupidest person in the room, but it was your background is incredible.
No, thanks for the kind words, Carl. Those are very flattering. So just a bit about myself. So I've been in the data and AI space for good around 20 years. Started off working on the traditional BI suites, as we used to call them. Now they're all analytics, big data, and so on. So have progressed into many different industries, worked across BFSI, telco, retail, and that gave me a good opportunity to understand AI and data landscape more holistically, looking at multiple use cases. And back last year, late part of the last year, actually, we sort of ventured into setting up our own AI company. And we went back and thought about what would be the best area that we can actually create more value. And Carl, as we were just talking about some of the use cases, how AI is coming in, how it's shaping up. So we consciously took a chance on maybe we want to be anchored in AI literacy. So when you think about AI literacy, primarily it revolves around not just, hey, what is AI? It revolves around, hey, what are the good AI use cases, how do we define good AI use cases from the not so good ones? So AI is not a pill for everything. Then looking at creating more business value, the operating models that you need to have, and then obviously the tooling and technology. And the main idea here is that you want to enable the subject matter experts. So it's more democratization of the whole technology to, creating something that everyone can use. So that's where we are anchored in, and that's the initiative that we took last year. So I'm very excited, nervous at the same time, on this new entrepreneurial journey. So let's see how this one goes. And
Well, I
just
think
about my part-time work, since Craig is here, so I'm pursuing a part-time PhD in auditable and explainable AI from Macquarie University. So keeping some sort of sanity in there through academia.
Wow.
I like how Osman described that as keeping his sanity doing that degree. You're doing that for fun.
Yeah. It sounds like there's obviously a lot of importance being put on, I think, having a balanced strategy, but it's not just about technology systems, but it's about people and also experiences. And, I think with Alessandro not being here, he sent through a question, which I think is probably a great starting point. Let me just put it up on the screen just so people can actually get to read it. But it's a great starting point to actually understand, how do we make sure when we're sort of looking at AI that it does what we planned it to do? And if it doesn't, how do we deactivate it? Is there a physical or a digital switch, and who controls it? Who wants to have a crack at that one?
I'll probably pass to my more learned colleagues here. I think my answer is going to be rooted in the movie Terminator. So let's perhaps see what Usman and Craig can bring to the party first.
Oh, that's really well played. Look, I'll start, and I'm sure Usman will be able to contribute to that as well. I think one of the things that's really critically important is, there's sometimes a risk or an appetite to just jump in. And I think by jumping in, you do expose yourself to many risks associated with the use of AI, some unintended consequences, etc. What we have been able to do at the University of Technology Sydney is really ensure that we've got some robust governance in place. That robust governance is really quite critical. That sort of sets some of the guidelines, our principles for the use of AI, how we monitor and assure that the initiatives that we're developing are measurable, and we can actually understand what is actually being done. It's not a physical switch that we switch on and off. It's a risk-based approach to how we would implement that. And we do have owners of the relevant products that are sort of being introduced and being rolled out. So I'd probably just call out that, that there is a real need to ensure that you've got the relevant governance around it. And we've spent a lot of time really just ensuring that we do, and really providing a lot of visibility and transparency around that approach of what we do and what we do if or in the event something does go wrong.
Usman, what are your thoughts?
No, I think it's a very, very good question. And look, I'll probably take the lens from a responsible AI kind of view. And it's very important. I think I can split the question into two parts. First is like whether we planned it properly. So that's where I was talking earlier, like AI literacy definitely helps in that space where you have to go back, brainstorm very, very clearly, like why are you implementing AI in your business, organization, or any use case for that matter? And what are the things that you actually aim to achieve from it? Let's assume that you have done a good job there, and let's say it has gone in a different direction than what was planned. That's where responsible AI frameworks definitely help. It's very interesting. I was having a conversation with one of our potential clients yesterday, and they are in the education sector. So their first and foremost call out was like, hey, if we are pushing content into our retrieval augmented generative model, how do we make sure that we can go back to our publishers and suggest that, hey, we have removed your content and now it's no longer available in that space? So these are the things which are actual real cases where you need to demonstrate, like, I'm not just saying AI is going to be more ethical, it's going to be responsible, but you have to demonstrate through your operating processes. So I think responsible AI frameworks are good, but we need to see more practical implications, how you use and apply them.
It's really interesting. It's all I think, up in the air at the moment. I noticed Nvidia this morning has just become the second most profitable company on the planet with the $3 trillion valuation. I'm blown away by these numbers, because if you get to a $2 trillion revenue as a company, and your growth rate is still growing at the rate of knots that it is, that just tells you that there's something really quite special going on. So let's have a think about this around that from a government perspective, Ross. What's government doing with experimenting stuff? So one of the questions I got the other day, we've got a platform, obviously with Meet Magic, and inside the Meet Magic platform, you can launch an RFI for an AI project very quickly, get connected to the vendors doing that, and then obviously go and have a conversation and take it from there. But a lot of the times, I think we were talking about the government not having funding and not having budget for this. So how do they test it and play with it if they've got no budget? What are their plans for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably start by dispelling the myth that government doesn't have any money. That's very much a fallacy. They have money. It just depends on what they want to spend it on. So, again, I'll pass to my more learned guests here to comment on this. But let's be clear, AI isn't a new thing. Generative AI has really brought it to the masses in terms of attention. But government have been using AI for a long time in different ways. A lot of it's already been baked into certain products they've been using. So it's not as though government aren't using or haven't used AI in the past, and that there isn't budget to do that. We recently ran a poll of our members around investment timeframes, and over a third of them, 37%, said they were looking at investing in AI solutions in the next 12 months. 34% said in the next 1 to 2 years, 12 to 24 months, and 29% in the next sort of 2 years, 24 plus. So there is money going into it. I think, to refer back to the question that was just asked and answered, I think the real thing we need to look at in terms of government is government are risk averse by nature, right? It's set up that way for a reason. They're not going to be the first person at the party. They're going to want to see how it's used elsewhere. We've already seen examples of AI going bad. So that doesn't mean they're not going to do it. It just means they need to be considered how they do it. And actually, to the point that both Craig Emersman were making before, government's journey is really about making sure they've got governance, frameworks, policy, ethics, standardization. All of that stuff has to come first before they go down the AI path in a big way. So, until they get that bit absolutely right, that's where you'll see some reticence to, adopt AI en masse. But to your question, there's definitely pockets of it happening. As I said, AI is baked into a lot of products that people are already using. It's no secret. Australian government is a big Microsoft shop. You've got Copilot that a lot of people are playing with, amongst other things. In terms of, and again, this is perhaps somewhat self-serving in the answer, but forgive me, the other way that government can experiment, learn and develop ideas is by cross-pollination of ideas and collaborating with their peers, which is fundamentally, if you get back to what Public Sector Network is about, is exactly that. Who's already done it? What did they learn? What can we take from that before we go down that journey? I think if we're really big on sharing good ideas and potentially bad experiences, we can probably speed up that adoption process. But I think it's probably important to stress that, government are never going to be out the front leading the charge on this.
I think you've just solved the entire vendor population's B2B problem with their marketing. Well, you have. I mean, they're spending so much money on SEO and stuff like that to actually try and find signals and those signals are meant to be that the government's interested in looking at AI, but the actual government people are talking to themselves internally and having conversations, networking at your events, that's where they're getting their information. They're not getting it from SEO. So stop spending all that money on advertising and ads, and start investing it in PSM where you can have a conversation. That's actually, I think we're seeing that a lot. It's just crazy the amount of money being wasted in marketing. They should put it to better use.
Well, I think we're very much aligned on that. I think people are forgetting the power of having conversations with people and actually hearing from the customer firsthand about what's going on.
It really is a great response, Ash. Craig, what's happening in the education system and how are they looking to, I mean, I guess I don't see the education system as a government organisation, of course, but they are, or they're not, they're private. What are they? Are they government?
Yeah.
Right.
No good shot. Yeah. That's right.
How are you looking to use AI at the moment?
So I can sort of definitely talk from the UTS perspective, and I think across other universities might be doing something slightly different. But I think one of the things at UTS that is pretty rich and put us in a pretty good position is that we recognise the importance of data several years ago, and I've been at the university for about 4 years or so now. And over the last 18 months or so, as we've already started building our analytics and AI capability, more in the predictive space, and that was sort of where some of the governance and the assurance frameworks were really established that can guide that. With the introduction of generative AI and the likes, as we were able to sort of really pivot. One of the challenges, though, with that is that we're pivoting with those existing resources. And so now, obviously, we're thinking about what does it look like and what is the team and the capabilities we need that sets us up for the next couple of years. So, higher education, we're using it to really support our students. And that's in really two parts. One being how we can support our students in improving and supporting their learning outcomes. But also, the students that are graduating are and will be exposed to these technologies, and they need to be ready when they enter the workforce. So really ensuring that we've supported both the students on their learning outcomes, but embedding some of these new capabilities into the work that we need to do. We also, as sort of really part of this work, is try to effectively prioritize. So, coming back to the last question when talking about without a budget, I think part of our role as leaders in data and also digital is why haven't we got the budget in order to do this? How are we communicating? How are we demonstrating value? So I think when we can demonstrate the value and it's not just a cost associated with the university or with the department, this is when we're really going to get some large transformations. So, I'd really be encouraging people to consider measuring the effectiveness of the activities you're undertaking, be able to communicate them, because then it's a much easier conversation when you're in the budget table, trying to get more investment to, transform the way in which the university needs to work.
It's a very interesting point. I don't know if you saw the figures yesterday that came out. The Productivity Commission has released a report that said Australia grew 0.0001% or something stupid. It's like the most minuscule amount of productivity growth. So we've gone off and had all these conferences and speaking stuff and implemented all this technology, and we've done all this learning and gathering, streamlining processes and implementing this. It's not done anything good for the economy yet. I find it remarkable.
Carl, can I just maybe ask Craig a quick follow-up question? I don't want to take over as host duties here, but something he said did interest me. You talked about trying to build a business case there. I mean, from your point of view, what's more compelling when you're trying to go get the money? Is it about using technology to save money or using technology to generate revenues? And I think we might probably talk about that a bit later, but I'm interested through your lens. I mean, I'm sure they're both as compelling or another, but for someone like yourself in the university, how do you get that over the line?
Yeah, so look, I can probably talk just in the context of where we are now, is I'm in the process of building out our revised data and AI strategy that will set us up. So midway through that. So I will be encountering those challenges. But primarily the work that we do are focused on really three key themes. One being revenue, and what is it that we can do in order to support revenue generation for the university. Compliance is a critical aspect as well, is that ensuring that we are and maintain compliance. So, and then the other thing, or the other aspect, is around efficiencies, is how can we generate efficiencies in the work that we do. So as we go through, we're evaluating projects and initiatives across each of those three criteria. But overarching all around that is that we want to ensure that we're uplifting the student experience, we're supporting our staff experiencing and providing the right skills and opportunities to engage with some of these new technologies. So it's really those primary three key themes that really decide, I guess, really shape our priorities. And we measure those, and we look at trying to realise that value with the business in partnership as well. So they're signing up for the work that we're going to be undertaking.
It's interesting. It's a great question, Ross. I think putting a budget aside and then implementing something and then checking whether or not it's actually delivered on the ROI is something that don't necessarily happen a great deal. But I guess the question there is, will more pilots lead to better products and experiences? And maybe Usman wants to take that one. And then I think that will probably lead into another question, which Craig touched on about training and educating, which I think is the literacy side of your business has been.
True that. And Craig, I think for us, I think, in my opinion, pilots definitely lead to much better experiences in terms of our sort of working operating model. So wherever we have engaged, we have seen much more traction from the business stakeholders. We were just talking about business value being generated and first and foremost being demonstrated. I think through those proof of concepts and pilots, you absolutely can nail that bit. And once you have seen something working in a prototype, it's just about scaling. And the information age that we live in, putting more scale to the same solution is not going to be a big deal. So we have seen a lot of major organizations leveraging a lot of AI products through pilots, and that has created more value. I'll probably link it back to what Ross was asking earlier, like, is it more revenue generation or cost optimization? I think most of our experience at Zenalot has been around revenue generation, more value creation. Obviously, you can apply a lot of AI to optimize the bottom line, but I guess that is pretty much what AI has been doing in the past as well. Once you are democratizing in this day and age, you are looking for more revenue generation. And there are a lot of great pilots and rapid prototype techniques that are there. We definitely advocate for a few of those as well when we are interfacing with our business partners and clients. Definitely generates a lot of value.
And that's right there is an opportunity. I think Ross has got access to all the government agencies that need the issue. We've got a platform that can actually allocate the RFI, and they can come through to you and do a pilot for free, and job done. That's it. Okay, we can all go home now.
Brilliant.
No more 0.0001% productivity gains. We've solved it.
It's just nuts. Usman, let's go back to this one, because coaching was something that's really important. I think a lot about the intellectual capital walking out the door, and that cost of capital is really quite a lot. You've got 20 people working in your company that have been there for 30 years or 20 years or whatever. There's a lot of knowledge in there. And for have AI come along and replace them for whatever reason and walk out the door, obviously that's a big cost to business. And it's not, you look at companies with 10, 15,000 staff, there's a lot of intellectual capital that could potentially, go missing. Can we mitigate that? And how do we look at things like coaching and training and mentoring using AI rather than actually replacing people?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think in terms of AI literacy framework, I'll lean back to it, Colin. I think that captures a lot of essence to what this question is all about. So it's not about just training. It's not just about the knowledge, but it's actually the whole value chain. So when you are applying AI literacy to your organization, you are actually looking at from that holistic lens. So for instance, in one of the organizations, our suggestion path was around knowledge retrieval and augmentation of the knowledge through an AI app. So that means, Carl, that if I have a few people who are, let's say, leaving my organization, that's a natural iteration that happens. So do I lose all of that knowledge? Since I have an AI augmented agent there, they can give me some really good insights to someone who is joining us fresh. And it's not about just retaining of that knowledge. It's actually applying that knowledge into a new use case. Businesses move, business problems evolve, and the problems that you're solving in the future might not be the same problem that you're solving today. So applying the same knowledge in the same context might not be the right way. So evolving context is where AI agents can definitely help. Naturally, in the training and mentoring part, that's the core of AI literacy. That's where we upscale subject matter experts. So it's a more democratized AI skill. So think about finance for non-finance, for instance. Those courses are now available for all business leaders, let alone just the finance people. And everybody has to know about ROI. You can't expect any person working in business not knowing ROI. So I see that's what's going to happen to AI skills as well going forward.
Sorry, Josh, again.
I think Craig had a comment, but I'll certainly add something at the end. But Craig, feel free.
Oh yeah, thanks. Look, I was just going to also add, I think one of the most critical things is, probably traditionally, if we've thought of training and education is for our data teams. I think what Usman was sort of really referring to, and I really just want to re-emphasize that, is it's the whole organization that needs to uplift their skills and capabilities. They don't need to be experts, but there's a base level of understanding, and you definitely need to be able to provide that training and support in order to leverage some of the new capabilities. Just as a little bit of an example, just with, the introduction of Gen AI, we've sort of run a few pilots, but most of the staff have already been using some of these capabilities and just want to know how they can use it safely and effectively at the university. And, they're ready to go. They just sort of need that guidance. And I think it becomes absolutely critical for that literacy to span the whole organization, just not within individual data teams. And ways in which we're sort of doing that is just bringing together people from different perspectives together to work on a joint problem. And they get an understanding and appreciation of what each people are doing, and actually uplifting, cross-pollinating, and creating, new opportunities for themselves to explore those different problems. And it's just really great to see the growth of the teams and the skills just develop with the introduction of these capabilities.
I think the gents have covered the bulk of it, but I think the only thing I would say in more simplistic terms is that, this isn't new. We've seen technology change the way that we operate in the past. We've seen this movie, Industrial Revolution, and all the like. So there's that famous quote, whether you believe it or not, it's not AI won't take your job. Somebody using AI will take your job. So it's impossible to stop the progress of what's happening. So I think the key thing is just providing a safe space and some time and some programs for people to upskill. It is the way it's going. No surprise. Again, I'll refer back to the poll that we did recently with our members. Nearly half of our government audience, which is a huge amount, said that creating a data literate culture and equipping staff with the right skill sets was their biggest barrier to AI adoption. No surprise there. The technology's there. We know that. You can argue around governance and processes and policies and how it's applied, but the big gap is the skill set.
Human behavior. Yeah, I think we tend to do what's important, not what's, or we tend to do what's convenient, not what's of value to us. And that's probably actually a pretty good segue, Usman. One of the things I think about is Craig's students leaving, obviously, university and going into the workplace, and obviously the workplace being ready to accept those students. It's like a crazy situation. But then also, I think about the Hollywood Writers Guild, for example. When AI was coming out, they all went on strike and they all got scared that they were all going to lose their jobs. And so there's obviously a lot of psychological stuff going on inside companies. You've got to think back to the farmers and when the tractor was first invented. The tractor came along and the farmers all shit themselves thinking this is going to take my job. Actually, no, it's going to make your job a bit easier. And I think that's the same thing with AI. It's not going to think about it making your job a lot easier rather than taking your job. I think that's a better way to frame it. But how would you, you must be talking to companies about this topic of psychological safety for the entire company. How do you go about it?
That's a very good question. I would probably twist it a little differently. Like rather than giving assurances on psychological safety, that depends on a lot of different factors in an organization. So it would more revolve around, hey, would I be relevant tomorrow? Would I still be relevant in the age of AI? My answer would be, you have to think about the workforce of the future. It has to be something to do with augmented AI roles. So if I have to augment with AI, then I have to embrace that technology. Just like computers, once they were introduced. So if I'm reluctant to use a computer, don't know that skill, obviously I won't be able to thrive and apply my skill set or my subject matter expertise in a way that would maximize my potential. So I think that is the same case that is happening right now. More and more businesses that we work with, Carl, are revolving around, hey, we want to adopt AI. We are not sure how to adopt it. Can we have a good understanding of, hey, how the augmented workforce looks like? And that's where I think that's where most of the conversations would revolve around. I would say that, it will create a lot more value. It would create a lot more space for people to think about rather than doing all the grunt work. I saw a very interesting meme the other day where people were saying about a person who had quoted like, "I want AI to do my laundry and that kind of stuff, and leave more space for me to ask." Yeah, that's the one. So
I don't want AI doing my writing and my painting for me. I want it to do my laundry. I think was the.
And my take on that is, you still want help in your writing. You don't want to go through writer's block. Certainly, I've used AI in a lot of areas that has benefited me, even though I want to say that, hey, I'm a very subject matter expert in my domain. But absolutely, there are so many areas where you want that support through an digital agent that can support you, that maximizes your potential, the way that you articulate and structure your thoughts. So I'm a big proponent of that. And I think the main thing that we will get it wrong would be this messaging, that we are looking at from a very shallow lens, like, I don't know, my job exists or not. It's more broader than that. Whether my skill set that I have as a person, as a human being, am I relevant to this economy or not? That's the more fundamental question. And if you answer that, whether that be augmented AI skills, I need to upskill there, I have to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ross, any final thoughts before I ask this? I'm going to go into a bit of fun for the last 5 minutes because it gets a bit serious sometimes. I kind of like Socratic questions where we just ask a couple of silly ones off the top. I might ask Ross, for example, Nottingham Forest or Tottenham.
That's an easy one. I'll always go Forest for sure.
Oh, look, can I just add that I'd definitely say Spurs on that one if the question was coming my way. The Spurs fan. So, yeah.
Spurs fan or an Ange fan?
Sorry?
Fan. You're a Spurs fan.
Spurs fan before Ange started. Yeah, have been for a very long time. Yeah.
I was in London. A couple of weeks back, and I was sat in the Soho Club having dinner with a client, and Brennan Johnson and his mum and dad were sat opposite.
Oof.
And of course, them both being Forest fans. So David Johnson was a better player than his son, and so I walked up to the table and I said, "You're David Johnson, aren't you?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "You're a legend." I said, "All right, Brennan," and I ignored Brennan completely. It was just brilliant. But James, I just want to say thank you for giving me some time. The whole Meet Magic journey, I just want to give this a bit of a plug because on Tuesday, we've got 200 executives coming to the top of the Salesforce Tower, the biggest business tower in the floors. So big, massive thanks to Salesforce and for Georgia, my co-founder, for helping put that together. We've got 200 execs coming, and we're launching this brand new digital impact card. So Craig's obviously been an exec supporting us for a couple of years now. Every time Craig has another meeting, from now on, we'll send him a voucher loaded with cash, sponsored by Airwallex, which he can then distribute to a charity. It's a brilliant little concept that puts all the feeling of doing good back into Craig's hands rather than us giving the money away. So we've got, very excitedly, I booked his flight, and I want to say thank you to Jamie from Devon. You probably know Jameson is a complete legend, who he connected me with a guy called Raphael Rowe, who you may know is the guy of the Netflix series World's Toughest Prisons. He spent 12 years in jail for a murder he didn't commit and got let out. And while he was in jail, he got a degree in journalism, and he's come out and he's now got this. It's the #2 watched Netflix series show on. It's crazy. He's speaking at my event. We're launching the card, and we're going to give a lot of money onto the card for his charity, which is all about helping reduce the amount of people going back to jail. So massive shout out. It's a crazy thing. We've done it on a shoestring budget. We've literally with no money, just a lot of people supporting us, from Conga, who's our client, Devon, Airwallex, and Salesforce. Just a mad shout out. So anyway, let's get to these Socratic questions. I'll go around the table. I'll do a different one. So Ross, chocolate or cheese?
Cheese.
Right.
Easy.
Usman, say something in an Asian language.
Kya hal hai?
What language is that?
Urdu. How are you?
Oh, fair enough. I was going to ask a football question to Craig, but I won't. Craig, do you respect Kanye West?
Oh, look, I'm not a huge music fan, so yeah, probably. Look, yeah, it's a good question.
If that helps, musically, the correct answer is musically yes. Politically, no.
Look at the collaboration there. I think that's a good answer. I like it.
I think what's scary about that question is that everything that Kanye West has said has come true, and that's really scary.
Yeah, that is scary.
But gents, thanks so much. I'll post this. This has actually gone live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So I'll take it, we'll cut it up and send it out. There's been a massive amount of knowledge drops in there for people to learn from, which I think is great. I think there's so much out there in the AI world, you just don't know where to turn these days. So I think having your brains and knowledge on this is just been invaluable for everybody. And from me and the Meet Magic team, just a big thank you for supporting us. I'm very, very grateful.
Appreciate the invite.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you. It's been great. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have
a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.